Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Hello and welcome to USA Global TV and Radio in partnership with E360 TV. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome viewers from E360 Degree TV. It is my absolute pleasure to be here tonight with you from the UK, Doncaster in the UK. I have guests from New Zealand with us tonight. And it is my absolute pleasure to welcome you to A Woman's Prerogative Part 2. Our topic tonight is Global Chronicles, Bridges of Resilience Part 2. I want to also welcome all of the people, our normal viewers from USA Global TV and Radio, and also viewers from all the other platforms that we stream on. That's USA Global TV and Radio, our normal channel, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, X, Amazon Fire, Apple, TV Roku, and Android devices. A warm welcome to you wherever you are. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It is my absolute pleasure to be here tonight with you. And this is our part 2. This is episode 78. And we usually are on USA Global TV every day. We are providing programs throughout the whole of the week with various topics. And tonight it is A Woman's Prerogative. Let's bring on our first person, our first guest. It is Mariska Dupree. Come on, Mariska.
Hello, Caroline.
How wonderful to see you from so far away.
It is, yes. And I know it is very late at night for you. So thank you for being so gracious to host. I'm not sure whether my brain will be still functioning that time of night. So I am very grateful that it is more towards the middle of my day than the middle of my night.
Mariska, do tell our viewers a little bit about you, what you do, and how you help people.
Ooh, okay. So what I do is I help people moving from a specialization into leadership, as well as moving up within the leadership journey and all those transitioning areas within that space. So that is where I help people, and of course, places to get hold of me is either via LinkedIn or my email address, which is in my banner. Now, if you can't see my banner because you are listening and not watching the show, the email address is mariska@journey2discover.com. So nice and easy. And of course, we work around everything leadership and bringing a little bit more humanness into this space with you, so that we can bring our full strengths and capabilities into our work environment as well as our personal environment. Gone, I think, are the days of locking pieces of ourselves up back home and only uncovering them when we get back. It is so last century. So yes, that's what I normally do and help people with. Of course, also a little bit of writing and a little bit of art and a little bit of, well, everything else that is of interest, and currently reading some psychological safety. So yeah, busy with loads of other stuff too in between. And that's me.
Well, thank you, Mariska. That's wonderful, and always a pleasure to share the platform with you and have you be as part of the show lineup with you. Wonderful. We have tonight a very special guest, and Mariska has invited the wonderful Helen ZINK to be part of our lineup. So we're featuring Helen ZINK, who is a growth consultant. She does leadership coaching, team coaching, and she's an academic and author, and also from New Zealand. She has recently just launched a book called Team Coaching for Organizational Development, and she has had 33 villages and 5 countries at her launch. Please welcome, with your warmest welcome, Helen ZINK.
Great.
Hi, thank you. Thanks, everyone. Yes, it feels a little strange to be described as an author, as this has been my first experience in writing and publishing a book, but I'm getting used to it. So thank you for the lovely introduction.
Well, it's my pleasure. And when I was reading about you, I was very excited to meet you, Helen. Please tell our audience and our viewers a little bit about you, what you do, how you help people, and then to finish off a little bit about this newly launched book that you've launched.
Great. So a little bit similar to Mariska in that I help leaders to be better leaders, if that makes sense, and to do their jobs and perform the best way that they can. But in more recent years, I've been focusing more on teamwork and how team members interact and work together better. And particularly within an organizational context, there are very few, or in fact, I would argue no roles in an organization where you can perform on your own. It's all about working collaboratively and in a team situation. So that's kind of what I do as my day job. I also teach team coaching. So people who are already in the coaching space and want to specialize in working with teams. I'm on the faculty of a couple of training organizations. So teaching other coaches to be team focused as well. I do what I do. I'll explain why I do what I do, primarily because I want to help people. And I've got a corporate background where I've worked in large multinational organizations and really appreciate the complexities and the strains and the struggles in that environment. So the reason I do what I do is to help others navigate and get through all of that, hopefully a little easier than I did, perhaps. Now, turning to the book, it's called Team Coaching for Organizational Development. It's not the most exciting title in the world, but if you've ever written a book and worked with publishers, you'll realize that you have to actually explain what the book is in the title so that it's searchable. I would have chosen something more catchy and fun, but that's how it is. So this book, thank you for putting up the information on screen, which is available on Amazon. This book is really a case study, but it's a really in-depth case study. So it's about, essentially, it's about the story of a team who were newly created as a result of a organizational structure change, and with big goals set for them. And it's around how that team developed and moved and changed over a 3-year period. And I was working with them during that time. So I was working with them as a team coach for that entire 3-year period. So it talks about the ups and downs and the challenges and the good things that happen and the bad things that happen, and how we all navigated through that. But that piece isn't so novel. So people do write case studies about team development. So that's not novel. But what is different in this book is that it's written from 5 different perspectives. So normally, in this type of thing, the coach or the person in my position would be writing the story. In this book, it's written, as I say, from 5 different perspectives. So one of those perspectives is the team itself. One of those perspectives is the leader of the team. The third perspective is the organisation, so others at the team work with very closely. Then there's my perspective, and then the 5th and final perspective are the people who supported me, so people in my peer network, my family and friends, etc. So that's the novel bit. And then I compare the 5 perspectives together in the second part of the book. And there are some similarities, which you'd expect, but there's also a lot of differences. And that's, I guess, the power of perspective taking and realizing that your view of the world is different from everyone else's. So hopefully there's a lot of insight in there for people working with teams and working with other people, frankly, and that your insight and your views are not the same as everyone else's, and what that can mean in this kind of environment.
That sounds amazing. And that sounds really interesting to me, because in my corporate life, I was working always in teams and leading teams. And it's all about the people. It's not about you as the individual. It's all about everybody plays their part within the team. And then it's led from the leader upwards, downwards, and upwards. And so that must have been really interesting to have taken it from those different perspectives. You know, I can really see that that'll be a very interesting read. So wonderful, really wonderful. And I'm Caroline HEWARD, and I'm known as the Harley Street Stress Expert, tonight's host for A Woman's Prerogative Part 2. And I started off life in the bakery industry as a manager. So I've been in marketing and PR, and I've been in retail management, and I was a bakery confectioner and pastry chef. And I've been in stress management for 23 years. And you're probably looking at the screen thinking, no way. Well, I'm actually much older than I look. I'm 59. And so the basis of the work that I do is based from the perspective of me handling and dealing with my own stress, anxiety, and depression from corporate life and the loss of my father. And I learnt and trained in many different aspects of therapies to help myself deal with the depression that I had experienced from losing my dad in 2000. And I help other people manage their stress, anxiety, and depression. And over the years, we've all had our own challenges, and whatever challenge that I have had, I generally help move that forward into helping others. I've been a practitioner at 10 Harley Street for 15 years. I've only just left the practice because I've moved recently, and now really my audience is global, and I didn't want to be location specific. And I help people with root cause therapy using chakra psychology, how the mind and body connects, and what happens when the person is reaching out in a place of stress, anxiety, or depression. And that is whether it happens to them physically, emotionally, mentally, or behaviorally, whether they are suffering with physical ache and pain in their relationships or in their family situations, whether they're angry or whether they're moaning. It's whatever they're complaining or moaning about is what their stress is. And I work with root cause therapy to literally obliterate and bust their stress so that they become much more peaceful internally and much more peaceful externally in their external world. And I offer a free consultation on Zoom, Skype, Messenger, audio, video, or on call. You can reach me on +44 if you're international, 07523 120 189 if you're local. And I look forward to helping each and every person that reaches out to me literally bust their stress.
Awesome.
It usually gets So let's get into tonight's topic, and this is my second show tonight, so I've got a little bit of a head start. So our topic tonight is a Women's Prerogative Part 2, Global Chronicles, Bridges of Resilience Part 2. So what does that mean, bridges of resilience? Now, we're in a situation of having to be resilient in our families, in our work situations, in our relationships, and in situations that happen. So I'd like to take one aspect rather than many of them and broaden that out as we go through the show. So let's look at the aspect of personal challenges that you've experienced and where you've had to become resilient to overcome them. So overcoming adversity into thriving. So let's start with our guest, Helen.
Absolutely. I think as life seems to be playing out for many over the last few years, I don't think it's really one thing, if I'm making sense. For me, where I've had personal challenges or where I've been in a not so positive space, it's normally a combination of things. It's when you have influences from lots of different areas in your life, all happening at once. That's when things go tough. So the area that sprang to mind when you were describing the discussion topic of the area was actually partly related to the book that we're talking about tonight, and that I was working with the team at the time when they were going through a really difficult time themselves at work. And I was also going through a difficult time because my brother had just passed away unexpectedly. And also it was during COVID. So it was like a lot of different stresses in my life were all occurring at once. And I think, it's such a broad topic when you say, how did you overcome it? I think probably the most useful thing is being kind to yourself. So just really trying to not load your life up with too many things, seeing what you can defer or stop, and just taking the time that you need to process. The other thing that's really important is having the support of other people. And that's where the kind of teamwork concept comes in as well. Because in an organizational environment where you work in teams, it's that team resilience or that support that you can get from each other that's really important as well. So although I wasn't working in an organization at the time, I had a similar feeling or concept of team resilience from my peers that I was in contact with every day. So that peer support and family support and taking time. So it's a brief description. I could really, really talk about this topic for hours. It's a tough question, but thank you.
Cool. Thank you very much, Helen. I so resonate with some of the things that you've described in terms of having to handle many things, especially somebody close, a sibling passing away. I had the same issue when my brother passed away and was literally not able to do very much at all. So I really appreciate when you're working, especially with all the different aspects of your working and working on the book as well, how difficult that may have been for you to make it all work. So, it is showing huge resilience, that being kind to yourself is one of those things that is a very important aspect of bringing in the support of other people. And if you don't, you can be very isolated very easily and not able to cope with with what's going on. And it's beautiful the way that you've described it. Thank you. So let's go to Mariska. So tell us about how any personal challenges that you've had and how you've overcome them.
Ooh, well, I'm really appreciative of Helen's bringing in this layering. It's almost like a cake. If it's one layer, it's fine. If I add one more, it might be still okay. But as soon as I have a few more of those on top of it, it sort of topples over. And I think for me, some of that toppling especially happened while we were immigrating, so during the immigration process, because there's so many moving parts and so many new things that's happening all at the same time. And it really felt like a very top-heavy type of process that we had to go through. And for people that has gone through the whole immigration process, there's also a deeper questioning that we start to do around our own identity and what's going on and how we fit into this new environment. Now, in immigration specifically, it is exaggerated. And we also go through that within other spaces in our life. So, for instance, if we change job, or if we have a shift in our career, so for instance, when we literally move from a specialization into a leadership position, all of those times when we go through those transitions, what I have found personally is that there's a shift in our inner being and the way that we interact with the world and the way that we make sense of it. So for me, that's areas where I have had to build quite a bit of resilience over the last couple of years, not only during the immigration, but we also continuously moved within New Zealand. So every time, yes, we build a network and our local network, I need to rebuild one every now and again. So it's growing muscles. I'm getting better at it, and it feels a little bit less top heavy and toppling. So things that I have found works really well for me is to find those areas where I can be kind to myself and support. So whether it is support from external people in the sense of people that's very close to me in my physical environment, or it might be that it is emotional support from a broader group of people, so maybe family that's back in South Africa. And the other thing that I also find helpful is boundaries. So if I set my boundaries really well for myself, so I know in which areas it feels like I'm okay and I've got this, and I know which areas I move into when I don't feel that much okayness, it makes it a little bit easier for me to, when I do need to take care of myself and be kind to myself, go into a space where I can go, okay, these are my boundaries. This is what I've set up for myself. And in this space, I feel okay. It's like a little safe cocoon. And I can do what I need to do, catch my breath, be able to recuperate, and then go on to, well, do the try to get everything not to topple on top of me situation. So that would be my resilience type of thing. And Helen, I absolutely agree. The support, it feels like a team coming from a corporate environment as well. I do have an appreciation for being able to look for the right people at the right times for the right thing. So understanding who that is in our environment, whether it is in our work environment or our personal environment, in order for us to get the right support when we need it. And then, yes, absolutely being kind to ourselves. We can be so hard on ourselves. We typically our own worst critics for most things. And it takes effort and time to work on it. And when life happens, we forget to do that. So it is something that is very good to remember to do. And if you do have an animal, They typically remind you to do that too, because they'll come and cuddle up.
I so agree with that. I so agree. You've mentioned a lot of very interesting aspects in terms of resilience, and I'd like to pick up on one of those, and that is boundaries, because it's so easy to allow your boundaries to be completely overshot when you are in challenge and you are stepping into a place of resilience, that people see that your boundaries are open and they can come in and just take over. And this is where it's important to look after yourself. It's critical that you are aware when you allow your boundaries to open up, because people will walk right all over them if you don't have some boundaries in place. And it is so easy when you're in that state of adversity and handling difficult situations. Helen, do you have anything to say in terms of what Mariska shared? Do you have any feedback, comments, and anything that you found interesting as to what she shared?
Absolutely. And I'll also pick up on the boundaries piece. That's really, really important. And, you know, the shifting of those boundaries depending on the circumstances. So that really stood out to me. The other thing that I think crossed my mind that I think we need to include in our discussion and our thinking here is around seeking professional support when we need it. So, you know, seeing your doctor and trying to get a referral for a psychologist if things are really getting on top of you and are getting too much. So as coaches, Mariska and I can only go so far in terms of helping people with their resilience and personal battles. Sometimes we need a psychologist to step in. So just recognizing when that might be helpful.
I'm absolutely in agreement with you. It is so important to make sure that you are taking care of yourself as well with other professionals. That's something that I always endorse, not only for others, for myself especially, because we can't solve our own situation because we are in that same consciousness of where the problem was created. And so it does need someone else to come in and look at it from a blank perspective. We can always see somebody else's stuff. Somebody else is not working through something because it's right in front of them, they're right in it. But you can always help someone when you're not in the same consciousness of creating the issue and the problem in itself. And so I'd always endorse that. I frequently go to other people, especially when I've got some challenges, because that's the nature of this type of work, whether you're a coach, a therapist, a psychotherapist, you know, even nurses, doctors, they have to go to other people, you know, and I really endorse that as an aspect. For myself, from my own personal challenges in terms of bridges of resilience, is that each time something happens that's difficult in my life, and I can remember one such instance of going through a breakup in a marriage, and it was literally just after I'd set up my business. And I was in the very early stages of it, and I had gone on a very, very expensive, extraordinarily expensive training for almost a month. And I'd spent to the tune of, back in 2005, around $13,000 for this training in the Bahamas. And it was at the time before we had the onslaught of the social media and the platforms that we have today. And so we were advised and told that we must not have any communication with our families and any communication with anyone that we were living with. And so I didn't actually speak to my then husband for about 3 weeks. And I was starting to feel a bit uncomfortable. And the reason that they told us that we weren't allowed to connect with our families, and it was Skype that I was using at the time, they said it's because it would draw us into our family situations, and we were in very intensive training. And when I did connect with him, I felt that there was something not right. I couldn't work out what it was, but I felt there was something not quite right. And when I got home at the end of almost 4 weeks of being away, I felt that my whole life had changed and something really bad had happened. And so I was actually grieving, I was crying and really worried. I said, I feel like something massive has happened and I don't know what it is. Can you tell me? And I just felt something was grossly not right. And I was starting to cry, starting to get really worried. And I says, please tell me, because I don't understand. I can just feel something's very wrong here. And within 4 days, he then announced that he didn't love me anymore and he was leaving me. And I said, well, the course promised change. And I didn't quite expect that kind of change that quickly. So I was certainly taken completely off my foundations and off my ground. And I had to work through, because I'd got myself into a huge amount of what then, instead of it being an investment in my training and my career, it became then quite a big noose around my neck, because it became a debt. And I was really worried about how I was going to fund this debt that I had created through that training. And one of the things I remember doing, because I'd just been out in this course for almost a month, was that it taught us to be in the present moment. And I thought, well, I'm in my head because I'm swimming with everything that's going on. You know, my whole life has just collapsed around me. And he was telling me he was leaving and, you know, I was going to be left completely isolated on my own. And so I took a walk. And it was really hot that day. And I took a walk in the sunshine. And I remember noticing everything around me. I noticed children playing and listening to their laughter and their chatter, and dogs barking, and adults smiling, and the sun really, really hot. And I just went directly into my senses, because whatever I was thinking and getting into an overwhelm of anxiousness, I was actually able to take myself down into a very, very real reality of what was actually there versus what I was thinking I was going to have to cope with. And what was fascinating for me is that I found a bunch of steps. I sat on the top of one of these London townhouses, on the top step. So it was somebody's home, and I don't know how long I sat there, but I watched the world go by and felt good. I didn't feel the tears until I thought about the situation. And I was able to bring myself back into a place of resilience just by not being in the thinking and the analytical conversation of the doom and gloom, and putting myself into the present moment of what I was experiencing sensorially. And then after a period of time, I went back to my then husband, and all the thoughts came back in again. And so what I decided to do that evening, because it was so overwhelming for me, was I said, I need to take a walk and I don't know where I'm going. And I landed up in a spiritualist church. And I don't know why or how, I'd never seen it before, but I walked for about 20 minutes in one direction away from my then home. And I found the spiritualist church, and I sat in and conversed with a few people in the community. There wasn't a service at the time, and they invited me to a service. And this is where I landed up finding people that were Buddhists, and there was a local Buddhist community. And so I found in that place of adversity and trauma in terms of what I was experiencing from the mind, I found other people and communities that were able to help me take a different perspective and to be able to heal. And this is where I encountered Buddhism and became a supporter of Buddhism in terms of realizing that I'd found a new home. And I didn't even know it was all on my doorstep. So it was from my perspective about realizing there was a difficulty, and instead of fighting it out and trying to argue it out, I decided to go and become resilient in the situation I was experiencing right there and then. To become present was the resilience aspect that I chose, and it helped me feel better and be able to cope with what was coming at me at that time.
Love that. It reminds me of what Helen shared a little bit earlier on as well. So having being in your body and noticing, so that kindness to self is something that we forget to do. We are so in our heads and so busy with everything that's going on up there, we don't notice anything else. And then you were able to get into a space, Caroline, as to what you mentioned earlier around we cannot get out of the problem we created ourselves in that setting. So being able to go to a community that was able to help you to do that and get other perspectives. Back to Helen's, well, the book speaks about all the different perspectives that we can get from different people around the same situation. So it feels like we had a little bit of a circle going on there.
It does feel like that. It feels like it's all now actually coming to Helen Zink's book. But Helen it was like sort of you were central to this conversation tonight. But everything is coming back to the communities, the team, your supporters, different perspectives. You know, it's almost like, you know, you were central to our conversation tonight, Helen. So Helen, tell us more about the book that you've released in terms of some of the challenges that you experienced and the resilience, how you overcame those challenges, why you were writing the book specifically, because all those different team dynamics with all the changes would have had its own challenges for you to have had to handle.
Absolutely. So I might, if I may, I might talk a little bit about the content of the book rather than my experience of writing, if that's okay. Yeah. So I might talk a little bit about the team who is central to the book and their resilience. So over time, what the team members found was the more that we worked together, so the purpose of us working together was to work on how the team worked together, working more collaboratively, solving problems together, better decision making, getting to know each other better, knowing each other's strengths, etc., and reliance on each other. So that was the purpose of our work. But over time, the team themselves found that by investing in this collective development, their resilience was increasing. And one thing that's quite important to note is that individual resilience, which we've been talking about a little bit here in this session, is different from team resilience. So team resilience is about that absolute reliance on each other, that absolute need to focus on doing things collectively to navigate challenges in our lives. So it's a little bit different from, say in my case, my brother passing away and getting support from family and friends and colleagues. It's a little bit different from that. In a team, in a corporate environment, the collective team is often battling or grappling with challenges. If you use COVID as an example, immediately many teams across the world needed to suddenly work virtually when they were working in the office together previously. So that one shift alone is huge, and how that team collectively worked through not just practically what they needed to do in terms of getting their work done, but how they supported each other with the emotional shifts and the changes that they needed to go through. So there is a distinction between individual and team resilience. That comes through quite strongly in the book. And as I say, it emerged from the work that we were doing together. It wasn't an intention, if you like, of the book or the work that I was doing with the team. It emerged from the circumstances. So that was a huge learning for all of us involved. And I think that can be applied in many aspects of our lives. So in a family situation, there are often collective challenges. So if you think of your family as a team, you're going through all of that together. It's not necessarily an individual person. And so that family or that team resilience in that context is really important as well.
Thank you, Helen. Yes, I would. That's a really good example in terms of when our world times changed in March 2020. Worldwide, we suddenly started to experience moving from the physical environment to being an online environment. I certainly struggled with that, and I wouldn't go into the on-screen environments nicely because I was resisting it. There would have been a lot of people that would have had that resistance to the online environment. And from my perspective, I was seeing that the ones that adapted easily and quickly did well, and the ones that didn't suffered. And the people that were introverts were very happy with being online, but the people that were extroverts were struggling with being online, because they needed the physicality of the socialism. And I certainly realized when I was speaking to a lot of people that went online that there was a very big difference if people were an introvert naturally, and we are always, a little bit of both. We can be introverted in some aspects, but if our dominant is introvert, the introverts were really having a ball and they were really excelling, and the extroverts were struggling, and that was very apparent to me. And so you've brought up some very good aspects of those change times and being in the team and yet not being in the team in terms of being online. So Mariska, tell us a little bit about what resilience that you've experienced in your work and how you've overcome it. And we are coming up close to the time, so we're going to, if you can give us a quick example of something that you've experienced within your working life and how you've overcome it quickly within your work and your occupation.
I think the places that I think of is where we had teams so during maintenance periods on the power stations that I worked on, we have set teams, so people that normally would work together, and then we have project teams, so we might group up people from different set teams into new little groups, and they will run a specific project or a specific piece of maintenance that we need to do. So those ones I have found very interesting in how to build some resilience, my tongue, within those teams, because it's not people that typically work together. They don't necessarily understand how the different strengths that the people bring, that understand each other really well. So there's a bit of a dynamic that you need to work through during those environments as well, that would help them to do really well for the period that they are working together. And Helen, I'm not sure whether you've mentioned any of this in the book. What I would have loved to do while I was working there was to actually read the book and see how teams build their own resilience, because you mentioned the team resilience and individual resilience might look different. So how to help them with being able to do that just a tad better than they did, because some teams worked really well and others didn't.
Thank you, Mariska. Brilliant. Well, we are coming to the end of our show. I know it's gone very quickly, hasn't it, ladies? I can't believe how quickly it goes. So in a very, very short minute and a half, please share how people can reach you, Helen, and how you can help them. So the kinds of people that you want and how you can, what you do to help them, and share your contact details for the last time for the show.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So I can be reached, probably the easiest way to get hold of me is through, thank you, through my website and email. So my email is helen@growtobe.co.nz. Or through my website, which is growtobe.co.nz. And there's a contact page there. So just clicking on the contact page on my website will send me a message, and I can get back to you. Also, if you're interested in the book at all, so if you're interested in team dynamics, team development, and how teams can work together, if you go to my website, you can click on buy now and it will take you through to a screen to purchase. And also, thanks for putting this up on the screen now. The book can also be purchased through Amazon, either as an ebook through Kindle or paperback or hardcover if you have a large budget. But really, the other thing I'd just like to say is the book is written in a style that anyone can read. So it's not particularly academic, although it does have some academic references in it. So if you're interested in collective resilience, teamwork, it's an easy read for everyone.
Thank you, Helen. Brilliant. So all of our viewers, please reach out to Helen if you need help with your teamwork. And certainly the book sounds like an excellent way to move forward with helping your teams. Thank you, Helen. And Mariska, over to you. Tell our viewers how they can get hold of you and what it is that you can help them with.
Okay, so getting hold of me, you can do so via my email, which is mariska@journey2discover.com, or alternatively, you can also connect with me via LinkedIn. Just drop me a direct message and we can start our conversation. People to get in contact, well, if you are a specialist looking to move into leadership, so it's not necessary for you to already be a leader. If you would like to move into leadership, you are more than welcome to get hold of me. Or alternatively, if you are already within the leadership space and you're transitioning into one of the higher leadership spaces, you are more than welcome to do so as well. And thank you, Dr. Jacalyn, for also having my website on there. So there's some more contact information that you can find on my website. And that, I think, is it.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mariska. And for myself, I'm Caroline HEWARD, known as the Harley Street Stress Expert. You can reach me on email, nomorestress@live.co.uk, or reach out by call. If you're international, +44. If you're local, 07523 120 189. And I help you bust your stress. So if you are suffering with any physical, emotional, mental stress, that relationship that you're complaining about, if you're suffering with bereavement issues, anger management, or work stuff, work stress, where you're having a challenge with a work colleague or a boss, reach out to me and I offer a free Zoom consultation online, Zoom, Skype, Messenger, or indeed, if you're camera shy, you can call me. You can reach me on email, normalstress@live.co.uk. It has been my absolute pleasure to bring tonight's episode to our viewers, normal viewers on USA Global TV and Radio, and our new viewers on 360 TV. It is absolutely amazing to be on this platform with all of our new viewers and our old favourite viewers. Please do connect with us. We are here twice on a Monday at 5 p.m. UK time, which is midday Eastern time, and midnight UK time, which is, I think it's 7 o'clock Eastern time. Thank you very much for checking in, and we look forward to seeing you next week. And do check out and subscribe to USA Global TV and Radio. We have a whole plethora of programs. Thank you very much, everybody. Good night.
Hi, my name is Zane Carson Carruth, and I'm the author of this book, The World's First Tooth Fairy Ever.
Reading is magic. Studies have shown that reading to your children lays the foundation for greater success in life. Reading helps develop language and vocabulary skills. It helps improve memory, and it encourages curiosity and inspires creativity. The benefits are immeasurable, and as a parent, you'll benefit too. In only 10 or 15 minutes a day, you'll be creating warm memories and a bonding experience that will last for years to come. So take time to read to your children. Read them books about things that engage and interest them. Tales of fairies and magic fascinate children, and as everyone knows, the Tooth Fairy is at the top of the list. If your child loves magic, wands, adventure, and what child doesn't, you'll love reading them books from the trademarked series, The World's First Tooth Fairy Ever. Follow along as Abella, the world's first tooth fairy, accidentally starts the tooth fairy tradition. Learn the tricks of being a professional tooth fairy in the book, Abella Starts a Tooth Fairy School. Your child's imagination will soar as you read the adventures of Abella and her magic wand. These wonderful books are available at worldsfirsttoothfairy.com and at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Walmart.
Hello everyone, I'm Simon MacDonald. I live in the West Highlands of Scotland, a very beautiful part of the world. Seems a long way from the USA Global TV station. But remember, USA Global TV is worldwide. It's a fantastic platform. And every Wednesday, I come along here as part of the show of the United Kingdom, News and Culture. And it's just like a family reunion each time. It's one of these amazing stations that has such a beautiful, friendly, and intelligent atmosphere as well. And we reach out to an audience in the most unimaginable places. And I came here, I don't know, must be over a year ago now. I was introduced by Dr. Philip Chan, and I met Ian Plum-Turner and Helen Achard, who are co-presenters on the show. And then Diane Floyd-Bem came along as well. And I mean, the five of us, Dr. Jacalyn, of course, who is our host and our mentor, has just made this show work so well. Tremendous people, lovely time we have, and we impart a lot of information, a lot of knowledge. Nothing's rehearsed. It's all done off the cuff, and it all just gels, and we get great feedback from people coming back and saying how they're enjoying the show. It's lovely to hear, and it's lovely to get that interaction from outside as well. And we're all listeners, and some of us are elevated listeners as well. So we enjoy every second of it, and we hope you do too.